we read about and that we have seen in the Love is a Fallacy skit. Let's get some lecture. Please take notes if you can in the dark. Informal logic. Logical reason takes place in two forms, formal and informal. Eventually you will hear that both formal and informal fallacies have, reasoning has fallacies. So formal reasoning has formal fallacies, informal reason, informal fallacies. What is a fallacy again? Say that more confidently. Yes, but say that more confidently.
Mistaking your thought.
A mistake in your thought, in your reasoning, is a fallacy. So formal reasoning focuses on types of arguments in which premises imply necessary conclusions. At this point, I must say to you, you have not learned formal logic yet. You have not learned how premises guarantee certain conclusions. You will learn that next week, hopefully. What we're doing this week is informal reasoning and informal fallacies. So informal logic is not concerned with the structure. Next week, you're going to be learning how fallacies can come about because of the structure of your arguments. This week, we're just not focusing on structure at all. What we're concerned with is everyday arguments. Everyday arguments that you don't have time to write it in a syllogism. You'll learn more about that. But you listen to the everyday argument, you identify different fallacies. So it's concerned with arguments made using everyday, ordinary language. You saw that with Polly and her suitor. He was trying to teach her logic, everyday language, and it backfired. Maybe if he had left her as he found her, she would be his wife. All right? So, another way to say the same thing, said differently, informal logic is an attempt to develop a logic that can analyze arguments that occur in natural language. Unfortunately, because we're human beings and we're limited, I doubt you will be able to remember all the fallacies that you read, the informal ones that you read about in chapter 6, but you will remember 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, hopefully, and those will be able to help you in your everyday conversations.
Informal logic or informal fallacy?
Informal logic is the reasoning. The fallacy is the mistake that you make in the reasoning. So if it's a formal logic, there are formal fallacies, and in informal logic, there are informal fallacies. What makes it formal or informal? You hear form. Informal logic is not concerned with the form at all. You will never say, oh, that's a fallacy of excluded middle. One day you'll know what I'm talking about. You are going to say, that's a hasty generalization. You are going to say, that's an ad hominem. Because you can hear that instantly. If a person attacks you rather than your argument, well, instant identification. So formal logic and informal logic. Just so you know, quick recap so you put this in perspective. Formal logic deals with deductive reasoning, which you should remember from last week. So formal logic deals with deductive reasoning, which you will learn about as we go along. Informal logic that we're talking about this week deals with inductive reasoning. Try to remember the meaning of those words deductive and inductive from last week when you all broke the table trying to come up with a definition. In terms of formal logic, it's either valid or invalid. All these things will become clearer as you go on. But for informal logic, either the argument is strong or weak. It's strong or weak. And with formal logic, we're going to get certainty. Remember, deductive arguments give you certainty. And with informal logic, my bad, informal logic or, see if I can go back, no. With informal logic or deductive or inductive reasoning, you can only get probability. So, I keep asking you this question. Have you ever heard an argument and you know something is wrong with it, but you don't know what it is? It could be that that argument is committing a fallacy. It doesn't have to be. It could just also be that you don't know what that person is talking about. But it could be that there's a fallacy being committed. Yes?
Formal logic is valid and invalid.
Yes.
Is informal it?
Informal is strong or weak. And what it can give you is probability. So let's define a fallacy. One of the things that you have to do in this class, you have to trust me, like sensei. You know, like I'm your Mr. Miyagi. Just wax on and wax off until you know what it's about. Definition of a fallacy. What is it? A fallacy is an argument that is incorrect, but it may appear correct. If it's obviously wrong, then you don't have to go for the word fallacies and try to sort your brain. It's just wrong. You're saying something crazy. But it seems correct is what makes it a fallacy, why we have to study. The argument seems correct, but something is wrong with it. Which applies to half of the preaching that exists in the kingdom right now. Sound right, it sounds good, but something is wrong with what you just said, but I don't know what it is yet. I'm going to go take a logic class, and then I'm going to come back. It may appear correct. The word argument, just to give you a definition of what an argument is for logicians, not a fight, you know, a battle of words. It's actually a means by which you give evidence or proof for whatever statement you are making. So everything that you are going to say that is going to postulate something, you're going to say something affirmative or something negative about any situation is an argument. You're going to say all men are tall. You're making a declaration. Hopefully you're going to be able to prove or disprove that declaration. You're making an argument. It's going a bit quick, so wherever I skip off, just go to the next line. So what's a good argument? I decided to add this statement at the last minute because I'm going to be telling you a lot today about what a bad argument is, what a fallacy is. But they say if you ever want to tell somebody or teach somebody something, it's usually better to tell them what the real one looks like before you tell them what the bad one looks like. So they're like, oh, if you want to learn what money is. I remember my first time moving to this country, and I got a job, and I took 5 fake $100 bills because I didn't know what it is, and I kept my job. Isn't that good? But I didn't know what a real one looked like. So I want you to understand what a good argument looks like in terms of informal, and then we'll talk about what a fallacy looks like. A good argument starts from true premises. Learn a little bit more about that next week when we deal with building blocks. Starts from true premises or facts. Have you ever heard someone say, 80% of the people in the world are Democrats. 90% of the people in the world are Christians. Where are you getting these statistics from? Like, did you do a huge worldwide survey? People like to create arguments based on no facts or false facts or facts that don't have enough evidence. So, true premises and facts or facts, the argument also has to make no logical mistakes, so no fallacies. It marshals a great body of evidence. It answers objections. It clarifies the issues and draws valid conclusions. Now that's a mouthful. If this is what you had to mentally process that you had to do every time you open your mouth to make an argument, you keep your mouth shut all the time. This is a lot. You have to ensure that you're using true premises or facts. You're making no mistakes, no fallacies. You're getting all the evidences together. You're able to answer all the objections, and you're drawing right conclusions. But I'm going to tell you this. Apply this concept to all your paper writing. Whenever you write a paper, ensure that you're trying to lay out an argument. Yes?
I'm in trouble because informal is based on natural words, natural speech.
Yes.
But as we put in the square, inductive is science.
Yes.
And how can I put in the same meaning science and natural speech?
Because inductive is not always science. There's inductive reasoning that you use with words. It's in your text. However, you use inductive reasoning to do science. But you can use inductive reasoning in philosophy as well. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's a way of looking at it is what makes it inductive. All right, I'm going to give you a quiz. Everybody's going to get a quiz, and we're going to see what inductive and deductive means, and hopefully that brings you some clarity. Don't always say to yourself, inductive only means science. Inductive is a way of looking at the information.
No, my concern is about formal and informal because I was thinking that formal is concerned to the structure of the word.
Yes.
The structure of the phrase.
Of the argument.
The argument.
Yes.
The argument.
Form
And-
of the argument.
Yeah. Informal is concerned about the conclusion
Not the
based
conclusion.
in instruction.
No, the informal has to do with we're going to see a little bit later, has to do with not the form. So anything that doesn't deal with the form is informal. So form, it doesn't mean formal like a tie. It means either you're dealing with form or you're not dealing with form. What I showed you is that formal reasoning, under that umbrella, you're going to have deductive. Right? Informal reasoning, under the umbrella, you're going to have inductive, but don't think in a box. Yeah?
Okay.
They're
I
parameters.
can't have one inductive with formal mistake.
If you can't have an inductive argument with formal mistakes, yes, but we're not there yet. You don't have the tools to do that gymnastics yet. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you can see an argument, and you can look at it deductively. You can break it down into syllogisms and see if the premises guarantee the conclusion, or you can look at it inductively and say, okay, it's committing these fallacies, or it's not committing these fallacies. There are different ways to look at it. But I had a conversation with Michael, and I understand. Y'all have to really think about me like Mr. Miyagi. Right now, just wax on, wax off. Then after that, you realize that we're going to put that together, we're going to, So you got to stay right here with me. Just wax on, wax off, and a little bit later, you'll understand better how it works together with formal. Because I'm teaching you one half of the paradigm. There's another half that you're going to learn, and you see how they come together. And you can do all kinds of gymnastics after that. But for now, we're going to deal with informal first, because it's easier. And then we're going to deal with formal, and you're going to see how they work together. Yes?
I was just going to say, the fact that when you talk about form,
Mm-hmm.
informal, when you speak to the form, does that mean that you necessarily can accompany along with the origin?
That's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. Now you're going to learn the fallacies differently. So, mistakes or fallacies, as we're trying to talk about, can either be formal or informal. So you can have a formal argument and a formal mistake. You're going to learn that a little bit later. Wax on and wax off. You can have an informal argument, as it were, or an informal way of looking at it, and you have mistakes that are called informal fallacies. We're going to learn about them today. Hopefully that helps a little bit. And in a formal fallacy is an invalid deductive argument. Write it for now. A formal fallacy is an invalid deductive argument that resembles a valid argument, but something's wrong with it. The pattern, the form is wrong. Let's do a mini quiz. And this is going to come to the point of, if you remember, all of these things build on each other, so you need to remember what you learned from week to week. What is a deductive argument, or what is deductive reasoning? That's why I was kind of running, because I know I had a quiz in here. What is deductive reasoning?
You start from the premises to the conclusion.
From the premises to the conclusion. Any other definition?
Actually, put it simply this way, is the fact that you can just look at what you have and talk about what it is that you see.
You're very close.
Subject, you know.
You're very close. Who else remembers a definition? Y'all acting like y'all don't hear me. Don't worry about writing it down. It's going to be posted. Answer. What is a deductive argument? We took a quiz, a test. We played games because I want you to remember these concepts. What's a deductive argument?
Something you know to be true.
Something you know to be true. Not really. Not really.
Looking at the facts.
You are very close. Tell me what you saw in your notes. You can look in your notes.
It looks something that you know to be true in general, and you decide that it must be true.
Right. So you're reasoning from general to specific. You're using a general principle and you're trying to use that to apply to a specific situation. Let's look at an example. Hopefully it helps you. For example, this is deductive reasoning. Moving from general, it's actually a fallacy, but still. School is killing us. General statement. Whether it's true or not. True premise, no. But still, it's a fallacy, but you don't know why, you don't care. School is killing us is the first statement. General. More specifically, textbooks are made from paper. Second premise. Third, paper are made from trees. We need trees for oxygen, therefore, school is killing us, for real. School is really killing us. Even though the premises are crazy, but you see how they are going from a general statement and trying to postulate about specific situations. What is it about school that is killing you? So I'm going to make a general statement. School's killing you. What is it about school that is killing you? Well, the textbooks for one. Because the textbooks are made from paper. Paper is made from trees. And if you kill the trees, you don't have enough oxygen. Therefore, printing textbooks are really killing you.
But my argument would be, Professor,
Yeah.
how is that school? Why not generalize it and say something else?
It's a
It's not
fallacy.
school.
It's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. But the point is, going from a general thing. Here's another fallacy that we use all the time, but it's deductive. All men are dogs. John is a man, therefore John is a dog. That's a deductive argument. You heard the generalization, all men are dogs. John falls in that category of things that are men, therefore, ergo, John must be a dog. I'm going to treat him like one. Yeah? That's a deductive argument. Moving from general principles to specific situations. So that being said, what's inductive then?
Because it's going from specific to general.
Right, so that's why you use inductive reasoning in science, but science doesn't own inductive reasoning. You can use it anywhere. When you look at specific situations, so you're Darwin, and I'm going to look at the animals on the Galapagos Island, and I'm going to use whatever I see them doing as my rule for how life evolves. So the point is, we're not doing deductive arguments right now. We're doing informal or inductive arguments. Yes?
informal fallacy.
About what a formal fallacy is.
He said, for example, if argument with
Mm-hmm.
somebody, and I know it's not you,
Mm-hmm.
if I can prove it, I guess it's formal fallacy.
No, because you don't know what a formal fallacy is yet. I'm giving you generalizations, but after about by midterm, you will know what a formal fallacy is, because you will know the form of an argument. Use the way that we use form in logic is not the way that you're using form. There's a specific way. So it's good that you're confused, because I haven't taught you that yet. I'm just teaching you wax on, wax off. Now, if you're a good student, you just wax on, wax off until we do the battle, and you get to see what it is. For right now, trust me when I say that formal fallacies have to do with the form of the argument. You don't know what that means yet. Yeah? Formal fallacies have to do with the form. You hear the word form. Informal fallacies don't deal with form. Yeah, that's it. Formal fallacies have to deal with form. And you don't know anything about it yet, so don't worry about it. Wax on, wax off. So informal fallacies come in two groups. First of all, you read about this. There are fallacies of ambiguity and fallacies of relevance. What does this mean? In everyday speech, as I'm talking to you right now, as you're reading a book, there are two major ways that a person can make a mistake. Remember, a fallacy is a mistake in reasoning. Two major ways that you can make a mistake. One, you're being ambiguous, and we're going to break that down. Fallacies of ambiguity. That means, what does the word ambiguity mean, first of all?
A word can mean,
Just the word by
not
itself.
clear.
When you
Not
say
clear.
a thing is ambiguous, anything is ambiguous, not just words. Vague, that's a good word. Vague, unclear. Unclear. It could be a picture that's ambiguous. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be words. So the meaning of the statement is unclear. For whatever reason, there are different reasons that causes it. But either you are being unclear or your argument is irrelevant. What you're bringing in is irrelevant. So fallacies of ambiguity and fallacies of relevance. Two major ways that you can make a mistake. Are there other ways? For right now, two major ways, okay? Two major ways that you can make a mistake. So fallacies of ambiguity and fallacies of relevance. In a fallacy of relevance, you understand what the person is saying. The meaning is clear. However, what they are saying does not address the issue at hand. For example, the sad part is a good way for me to teach you informal fallacies would be to talk about politics, but politics is too divisive. But like the minute you turn your TV on, people are committing these fallacies, especially fallacies of relevance. So you're gonna say, sir, tell me what your plan is for the next 4 years of American politics. Well, such and such is an idiot. You should not vote for them. Okay, that's nice, but what does that have to do with your plan, though? Or you walk up to a person, evangelism, and say, the two EE questions. Have you come to a place in your spiritual life where you know for certain that if you were to die today, you would go to heaven, or is that something that you're still working on? Well, Christians are hypocrites. That's lovely. I may agree that Christians are hypocrites, but what does it have to do with this question, though? You didn't even answer the question. It's not relevant. You're committing a fallacy. Now, don't say this to the person that you're trying to win for Christ. That's a fallacy of relevance. That's an ad hominem, sir. I'm talking to you about heaven here. But you know in your mind that that's what they're doing. And a lot of time when people commit fallacies of relevance is when they feel cornered. When they feel like they're really not winning the argument. So they just let go of the argument and start coming left, right. No, wax on, wax out. This is literally
Learning how to use words is like learning how to be a martial artist. You have to learn how to do it. The thing is now, when I teach you, I want you to go and see other people playing like that. And you don't have to do anything. They come playing and you just go. But you know what's happening. You know that something is wrong. You know that something is right, and you know why. Sometimes you may not know why, but you'll be able to go think about it later, and it comes to you why. Yes? Abby?
Can you give an example for the first one?
A fallacy of ambiguity, I'm going to give you a million examples. You're about to get a ton. So, fallacies of ambiguity. Let's talk about them first and we rest our brain. Fallacies of ambiguity. Fallacies of ambiguity are generally, and I say that word generally and stop because a lot of times y'all going to put it in a box. Don't put things in a box, just learn it. Fallacies of ambiguity are generally, not necessarily always, deductive arguments that appear to be valid, but are not because of a shift in meaning of a sentence or a sentence. What's that? What's this? That's a weird thing. So because of a shift in meaning, the word that I put are generally because we're not talking about deductive arguments. But I want you to realize that this fallacy of ambiguity can pop up anywhere. So once again, fallacies of ambiguity are generally, but not necessarily always, arguments that appear to be valid, but are not because of a shift in meaning of a word, phrase, or sentence. Even before I give you that example, I'm going to give you another example that appears every day in Christianity and theology. Salvation, how we use the word salvation. Do you know that a lot of time that you're having a conversation with a person, you're using that word in a totally different way? Did you know? Because some people, when they say salvation, they mean justification only, how you come into the kingdom. And you're talking with this person yelling when you're saying this is how you're justified, and they're using sanctification to mean how you come into the kingdom and how you stay in. So they're thinking salvation is justification and sanctification. So you are saying, you don't understand. You can only come into the kingdom by faith. This person's like, yeah, we come into the kingdom by faith, but you have to do some works. No, you're not a Christian. And if you realize that you have an issue of ambiguity and say, when you say salvation, what do you mean? How do you define the word salvation? Oh, you're talking about justification. Well, most Orthodox Christians believe that justification is by faith only. None of us think that we worked our way into the kingdom. I hope you don't. So do you see what I'm saying in terms of ambiguity? Where you're having this big old shouting match, but you're not even defining terms in the same way. Think about this one argument that I heard at seminary, right? So I went to that seminary. I go. When I went there, it was like two girls, all guys, too much testosterone in the whole building. And they love the Lord, they're zealous, oh Lord. And maybe the majority of the gentlemen there are Reformed and some Baptists, yeah? I'm probably one of the few Pentecostals there at the time. And so I come into the kitchen and I hear two guys going, like righteously yelling at each other. They're upset though, they're upset. So I'm like, okay. This is me like 5 foot. Okay, all right, okay. Hold up a minute. Let me hear the argument. They were arguing about baptism. And this one goes, how are you going to bring this kid and say that they're saved and the kid doesn't even have enough intelligence to know that Jesus is God? This other one, oh, you're saying that your child is a pagan? You know, shouting. So I'm like, okay, shh, lay out your argument. When I listen to the Baptist, he's saying, listen, we baptize people when they come to the age of accountability enough to know that Jesus is God. And they can make a confession that Jesus is their Lord. That's when we baptize them. Yeah? So the Peter Baptist is like, yes. However, our children are a part of the covenant. You know, they are covenant children, and so we treat them as such. But then when they get to a certain age, they call a different word too. They use the age of accountability, but it's the same thing. Age of accountability is what they do. When
they get to a certain age, we ask them, do you believe that Jesus is God? And they say yes, and we'll put them in the full fellowship. These people are saying the exact same thing, yelling at each other. Let me tell you the difference. Because Baptists don't treat their children like pagans either. They're on the choir, they sing, they read, you treat them like Christians. Now they come to an age where you say, do you understand everything that we've been teaching you? Yeah, we baptize you. Pay the Baptist. Grow up, grow up, grow up. But they do a baptism ceremony. They have a ceremony where the children say, we believe that Jesus is God. Doing the exact same thing. But how you defining the words is what's ambiguous. So you think that you and this person is having an opposite argument, or you're saying the same thing, but in different ways. Ambiguity. Huh? No, but they realized that, no, I was showing them, I was like, guys, y'all saying the exact same thing. Y'all believe the same things because as Baptists, we don't believe our children are pagan. Like my children, at my church, my youth group, they are involved in the full life of the church. You know, they're preaching if they need to, if they have that gift, they're praying, they're singing on the choir, but they get to a certain age, you're like, listen, I want to make a public confession that Jesus is my Lord. Okay, we want that too. So we're doing the same thing, but there's an ambiguity. You have to say to people, are we defining the words the same way in order to really have a good conversation? If you're defining the same word in different ways, you don't really know what you're talking about here. So you may agree because of the ambiguity. When you clarify that ambiguity, they're like, oh, we agree. Or when you clarify the ambiguity, they're like, no, you're wrong. But you have to define the terms. There can't be any ambiguity there. So fallacies of ambiguity occur when there is a shift in the meaning of a word or a phrase or a sentence. Whenever there's a shift in the meaning, you have a fallacy of ambiguity. Y'all get it? Y'all get that part? Good, good. All right. Yes.
How can it be a fallacy if they're saying ambiguous, if they're speaking the truth but ambiguously, how can it be a fallacy?
Because if you have an ambiguity, you are committing a mistake in your argument. You need clarity. There needs to be clarity. So if you are making an argument and your argument is not clear, then you're not communicating. So that is why sometimes you'll see me define a term in 3 different ways. Because I'm trying to bring clarity. There needs to be some clarity in terms of what you're saying, how you're using the words, how you're putting the words together so that you can actually be giving proof of whatever you're trying to prove, whatever conclusion you're trying to prove. So that's, if you're ambiguous, you're committing a fallacy. Think about like this. What are you looking at here? What is that? An image of what?
Two men arguing.
Alright, 2 men. So who sees 2 men? Who? What else do you see? Oh, yeah. And let's see what we do in everyday life. Like examine yourself. The preacher preach, examine yourself. In everyday life, we like this. Left side against right side, right? Republicans against Democrats. Baptists against Reformed people. No, that's 2 men. No, that's a babe. But the issue is, it could be either. It all depends. It's ambiguous. We may need to change some stuff around in order to really bring some clarity. Ambiguity, right? Let's try another one just for fun. What in the world is this?
One girl, a coat.
It's a girl with a coat. Or you know that I know that this picture has both images in it, and I had to sit there and color the headscarf yellow so that my brain could differentiate. That's what makes it a fallacy. When it looks right, when it looks like it makes sense, but it really doesn't. It's 2 images. It's either an old woman.
For me, I
You know, all you can see is the young girl. Alright. So for the young girl, this is her cheek, right?
Yes.
For the old woman, this is her nose.
Right, yes.
Oh, great.
This is the old woman's nose. You see how powerful ambiguity is? Hold on. That's why, hold on. Pause. And that's why theological arguments never get resolved. I want you to take this, lesson into the next debate that you have in a classroom about a theological issue. And this person's like, you still can't see what I'm trying to say to you? You're like, no, I can't see. But sometimes human beings, especially postmodern human beings, we're not the most trusting people. Even when I was just teaching you something, I'd say, take this on faith until you get some clarity. We don't really take things on faith. But there are some things that may exist that you cannot see. There may be some ambiguity, and you can work on it, look at it, but eventually you need to have clarity in order to really communicate, in order to really have a conversation, in order to really have an argument. Yes?
And fallacy of ambiguity.
Huh?
And fallacy of ambiguity.
Yeah, that's an ambiguity. That's an ambiguity. Why is it an ambiguity? It's not clear.
They have two meanings.
Yeah. So ambiguity, I want you to understand that these things don't only apply to words. And things can be ambiguous regardless. Words can be ambiguous, images can be ambiguous. But now, after we see what ambiguity looks like with pictures, we're going to see what it looks like with words. Yeah? But I promise you, I had to color that thing so I could see the image right. It's so fun. It's so fun. All right. Let's look at this little definition and we take a break. I know your brain hurts. And you can't read this. Ambiguity. Using language or linguistic structures with more than one meaning. Don't write it. You've had enough definitions for a lifetime, okay? More than one meaning to mislead or misrepresent the truth. So here's this little conversation between this mean professor and his student. I'm serious, prof. I did all the work. I should be first author on the paper. So I'm serious, prof. I did all the work. I should be first author on the paper. Here's a professor. Okay. I promise you will be first paper author. The student. Wait. Do you mean first author on the paper or on the first, or just author on the first paper? Yes. Because he's trying to trick him. He doesn't want to give him credit. He's like, listen, I did all the work. As your TA, I did all the work. I should be the author. The professor's like, yeah, he just switched the words around. But all of a sudden, he has a different meaning. First author on this paper or first paper author. Yeah? So that's what ambiguity does. People sometimes do it on purpose. Like people that are really good with arguments. People that, I think next week we'll listen to a debate just for fun. And see how people use these arguments in debates. The Christian guys against a few well-known atheists, and I'm telling you, the Christian guys are like, they were brilliant, but anyhow, so you see how that kind of works. Take a break, and I'm not being ambiguous when I say take a 15-minute break.
move on. So that we understand a little bit of what fallacies of ambiguity are in general, because we saw an example. It helped us to have the quiz open again, so we get what an ambiguity is and what a fallacy of ambiguity is. Now the next step is for you to understand, and this is from your text, this is what you read, that there are 4 basic categories of fallacies of ambiguity. So under the umbrella of fallacies of ambiguity, there are 4. Right? So these are the 4. And we'll learn what they are a little bit later. First one is simple ambiguity, aka otherwise known as equivocation. So on your homework or anywhere that you're writing, speaking to me, you could say equivocation and I know what you're talking about. You could say simple ambiguity and I know what you're talking about. Second one, amphibole, which is ambiguity as it relates to relationships or grammar. We'll talk about that later. Amphibole is from the Greek, which means ambiguity. If you look up amphibole in like Google, it's going to tell you about stalactites and things like that. It's not. In the context of language, it means ambiguity. We have ambiguity of accent or emphasis. And finally, ambiguity of significance. You can close the door. It distracts me. So we'll talk more about these now. Yes.
The quiz is do before we take the lesson, because the quiz tonight, we will open again, is the chapter 6.
No. The one that I'm opening again, yes.
Chapter 6.
Yes.
We need to do the quiz before taking the lesson.
Yes. Because that's me testing what you learned just by reading it. All right?
Because these are the mistakes.
Okay, so write it somewhere so that you understand. Every week, all the homework and quizzes are due before the next week of class, all right?
Before
The Wednesday before.
Before taking the class.
Yes.
Before taking the lesson.
But always look at the syllabus.
No, yeah.
Check with the syllabus. I tried to make that syllabus as clear as possible. Yes. Yes. No problem. Just for future, yeah? All right, so ambiguity of significance. Let's talk about them together. Let's talk about first equivocation or simple ambiguity. Ambiguity occurs when a word or phrase, this is simple ambiguity or equivocation. It occurs when a word or phrase has more than one meaning, which is a lot of words in English. So whenever you hear a person use a word twice in an argument, and it's a word that has more than one meaning, you may want to think about if they're using it in the exact same way. For instance, in terms of a word that has more than one meaning, a note. You could write a note, you could play a note, musical note, a trunk. That's the difficulty when you are even learning a new language. Because if there's a word, think about people who are learning English for the first time, and they hear you say a note, and the word that they have in their mind to mean note is a musical note. And I'm saying to you, write me a note. What do you want me to do? So ambiguity has to do with a word that has more than one meaning and is used in more than one way in an argument. Yes?
Do you find that people confuse ambiguity with evasiveness?
Explain what you're saying.
I don't know how.
Use some more words to bring clarity to what you're trying to get at.
Do it in Italian. So, I always thought that when someone is evading me and dancing in an answer, they were being ambiguous.
Yeah. No, those two things are not the same thing.
So they're mutually exclusive.
Are they mutually exclusive? No, a person can be evasive and ambiguous.
Simultaneous.
Yes, they're not mutually exclusive. So I want you to use words that you get in this class because they don't understand what mutually exclusive means in the context. But you can, in one conversation, be evasive by not trying to answer this question, and you can also be ambiguous, let's say in terms of equivocation, by when you do answer, you're using words in different ways. Use the same word in different ways. That's being ambiguous. Being evasive means I'm not trying to answer you right now. You know when you're evasive? When you're a criminal and you're in court and they're trying to ask you straight up, did you kill John? Well, I wouldn't say exactly that I killed John. It may have happened that I was holding a firearm in a certain position, and it may have, I'm not saying that it did, it may have went off and John may have died. Now, you're being evasive. Ambiguity is a little bit different, but not a bad question. So a musical note. Most of the time, you're not going to walk around and identify every single ambiguity that ever exists. Most of the time, it's unavoidable and it's harmless. Because, I'm sorry, I forgot. It's very difficult for you to think about a word and think about every meaning that it has in every context. A lot of times, context clarifies what you mean when you say a word. Yes?
I forget the language, but if a person can say to you in this particular language, would you like for me to come over to your room and knock you up?
What?
Well,
That's some ambiguity.
in America, we think if you say you're gonna knock me up, that means you're gonna come to my room and
That's some dangerous ambiguity.
when you say knock you up, and I can't think of it right now, it means would you like me to come over?
And not the door, like, come and see you, yeah. No, but that happened with my father, talking about that same kind of ambiguity. It's not is it equivocation? Does it have to do with how you're using the words, or does it have to do with the circumstance, or does it have to do with an amphiboly, the relationship, how you're using the words? I think it's more of an amphiboly, but here's one that my father got himself into. So, pray for my father, he's still not saved. But me growing up, my father was a player of no mean order. I don't know why he's a 5'8" guy, but girls thought he was hot. So he had this girlfriend that happened to be Hispanic. People from that culture don't like when you say Hispanic, but for the sake of brevity. And he says to her, I'm coming to look for you. Her response is, why? I'm not lost. You see, for us in our culture, coming to look for you means I'm coming to visit you. To her, like, why you coming to look for me? I'm right here. So ambiguity, it causes all kinds of problems. Yeah, but you have to ask yourself. I don't think you have to know, other than in this classroom. I want you to know. But outside of this classroom, you may not remember specifically what kind of ambiguity it is, but you'll be able to, that's an ambiguous statement. There's some confusion, shifty mess here. So most of the time it's going to be harmless. When you actually need to care about it is when the ambiguity causes the argument to sound cogent when it's not. When you're actually going to look at it is when you hear that argument coming to knock you up, you're like, something's wrong. What's wrong here, okay? What you just said is ambiguous. That's when you want to zone into it. I keep trying to tell you not to be a jerk with this thing, okay? Don't point out every ambiguity. Every ambiguity is not an enemy. Only when it affects the argument.
Excuse me, so
Yes.
if it's not, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
My brain is on.
That's okay.
Okay, so if it's not evasive, then it would be a double entendre.
Here's the only problem. I want you to consider your classmates and what you're saying. It could or could not be. The reason why I'm saying they might not know what you're talking about. It could or could not be. A double entendre could be ambiguous because you're using a word in different ways. So that could be an ambiguity. But just so, I don't want to explain what a double entendre is. So, who knows what a double entendre is? I guess that's an easy way to say it. Look at this example. of ambiguity. I know evolution is true because I see evolution happening all the time. What's the ambiguity there?
The fact that he's seeing it happening all the time.
No, that's not the ambiguity. What's the ambiguity?
What evolution?
What is, yes, it's how you're defining evolution. Yeah? So I know that evolution is true. Like evolution, macro evolution, do you see it happen every day? So obviously that's not what you're saying. Oh, I know that evolution is true because I see evolution happening every day. You're using that word evolution in two different ways. First, evolution, what are they describing? Especially my history of civ people that I just taught this, huh?
From man,
What do you say, Mr. C? Yeah, is the first one Charles Darwin? Do we see Charles Darwin evolution every day? No. Let me hear you. You had something to say. You like, I ain't gonna say it. No. Yeah. Say it more confidently though. That's more confident. Yes. Define the term. That's the best that you can do. Chris, you wanna bring some clarity? All right, it's okay. Learn these concepts, okay?
Wait, I remember.
Okay.
It doesn't have to do with adapting to your
There you go. So you could see adaptation happen every day, but you're not seeing a monkey become a human being. If you did, please let me know. I want to come and witness it. You are not witnessing Darwinian evolution every day. You may see adaptation if you decide to go out to the Galapagos for 3 decades and watch how beetles change if you put them in a different environment. You would be seeing. So you see how this is ambiguous and it's equivocation because there's ambiguity in the word. See it or don't see it?
Yes.
All right, good. Who doesn't see it? If you don't, in this class, if you don't know, you better say it. This train can't leave you. If you don't know, say it. Yes.
but Professor, do you necessarily have to use the exact word in the fact that evolution? Could I not have said I know evolution is true, but I see it? I didn't say happening, it's not it, evolution happening.
It would still be ambiguous. However, because you're using evolution, the same word, but you're using it in a different way. But for this purpose, in terms of you learning these fallacies, it's going to help you to not do this when you write and when you speak. But I think before you get to that skill level where you're able to analyze what you're saying, because a lot of time when we speak, we don't spend enough time to evaluate it before it comes out. It's going to be easier for you to evaluate it when other people speak, or when you see other people's writing or you see your writing. So the point is you're using that word evolution in different ways. It could be anything. We talked about the example of salvation. Could be anything. That's equivocation or simple ambiguity. I don't want to teach you all like your children, but if I feel like it, we're going to recite these, okay? This is equivocation or simple ambiguity when you use one word in different ways. If y'all don't get it, we're going to put it in a song. No, it's not. It's not. You and Mike have so much years of education that y'all trying to bring all kinds of things in. That's English. This is logic. Look at another example. Knowledge is power. Power corrupts. Therefore, knowledge corrupts. What's the problem?
wrong.
Duh. No, for real. Like for real, it's wrong. No, that's how you identify a fallacy. You hear it and you know it's wrong. Dude, that's wrong. Why?
The whole
The
premise
meaning of power.
The premise is wrong. Which part of the premise is wrong?
power corrupts. Power doesn't corrupt. Absolute power corrupts.
Which is true.
It's generalizing.
Which is true.
The meaning of power. The power is used for in different meanings.
Yes.
First and the second stage.
Definitely. Because when you say knowledge is power, what are you talking about? Yeah, but what do you mean when knowledge is power? What kind of power does knowledge give you?
Because you have a better understanding, you're no, What the Bible teaches us also that knowledge is power.
Hold on.
Without knowledge,
Let me tell you something with y'all Christians. Pray, just worship. Let me tell you something. That's why y'all are gonna use some logic, because sometimes when we need to come up with a different fallacy. When you back a Christian in the corner, they're gonna spiritualize something. Anyhow, the fallacy of spiritualism. Let's put it in a book and make some money. No, but for real though, the Bible does say that. But I'm like, Mike is gonna love this one. Because the word power, you know how y'all do, I gotta demonstrate. That's how y'all do from the pulpit. The word power is from a Greek word that is called dunamis. Dunamis, from which we get dynamite, is the ability to do something. That's y'all. Any given Sunday I come to your church. That's y'all. So knowledge gives you power. Power in this context, it gives you the ability to do different things. You know how. Power corrupts, or absolute power corrupts, is power corrupts. But a lot of times when people are doing this, there's a shift. So power corrupts. How do you define this power here? The power that corrupts. Are they talking about dunamis? No. What are they talking about here? Yeah, like authoritative power. So you see how, because you shifted the meaning of the word, same word you use, power, but you shifted the meaning from the ability to accomplish to power over or authoritative power, then the conclusion is obviously going to be wrong. Therefore, knowledge corrupts.
Yeah.
You see the ambiguity? You see the problem? If you were to see an equivocation somewhere, would you be able to identify it? Maybe. Y'all are not confident?
Within consensus also.
Say it again?
Part of the policy of consensus, what they call it, because they say that power corrupts, therefore knowledge corrupts.
I don't think that falls into that category, but when we get to it, I'll think about it. It's an assumption, yes it is. All right, anyhow, so you see that as an example. Let's look at another example, which is a bad example anyhow. I just wanted to put it in there. Some of the examples in your book are bad. Anyhow, this evidence says that evolution is true. The evidence is like a fossil with a print in it. The evidence is like, I didn't say that. I said no such thing. Where's the equivocation in terms of evolution? It's the same problem, different context. This evidence says evolution is true. Now we get it. Sleep on it. Sleep on it. This evidence says that evolution is true. The same question. Let me tell you something. Why? Hold on. Why you have to learn something inside and out? Because sometimes people just flip the same thing to the left, and you're like, I don't see it, but you saw it earlier. The evidence is a fossil. Yeah. So one is trying to prove evolution using a fossil. No, because a fossil could be talking about the fact that there was a worldwide flood, or that whatever it is could have just drowned. It does not prove that evolution is true. I know it's not a good example, but that's not. All right. So let's look at the next one. I want you guys to know this, because y'all know we play games. We have many quizzes. I want you guys to be able to do well without hurting each other. So, yes. So I want you to understand equivocation, changing the meaning of a word, and number two, amphibole. Amphibole. What is amphibole in terms of ambiguity? It is an ambiguity that results from ambiguous grammar. What was the one that you pointed out again? I'm coming to your room to knock you up. Amphibole. It's how you put those two together. It's a relationship between coming to your room and knocking you up. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean right there? You need to clarify what you're gonna do when you get to my room. Logic will save your life. So, Ambiguity from grammar. Said a little bit differently. Ambiguity in grammatical structures that lead to a questionable conclusion. It leads to a questionable conclusion. Do you intend to come to my room to make me have to confess to my pastor, or do you plan to come and knock the door? What do you plan to do? It leads to a questionable conclusion. I like that one, but you can't use it every day in church. If you ever decide to teach your church logic, don't use that as an example. Look at this, for example. You can't see it. I want you guys to be able to see it. Turn the light off for a little bit. Look at this sign. This is actually a sign somewhere. Somebody read that sign for me.
Watch for mountain sheep. That's two different signs. What I believe is.
Listen, watch for mountain sheep, slippery when wet. Do you get the amphibole?
This is the bottom side for us.
Yeah.
Or for the sheep.
Well, who's slippery? Is the road slippery? Is the sheep slippery? Who is slippery? These sheep are so slippery, watch for them. Or the road is slippery. You see that? It's because of the relationship between these two things that brings about the confusion. If you just had watch for mountain sheep, okay, I'll watch for them. If you just had slippery when wet, okay. But when you put those two things together in an argument, causes some confusion. Is the road slippery or are the sheep slippery? I'm sure the sheep are slippery. I'm sure they are. Look at another example. One morning, a lot of times when you try to teach people stuff, you teach them simple and funny. Then you make it hard. One morning, I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got into my pajamas, I will never know. It's an amphibole, I can tell you that. What's going on here? Where's the confusion?
Was it in pajamas?
There's a lot happening. There's a lot happening with this one statement. Look, did it mean that word shot is your key word? What do you mean? Even pajamas. Did he shoot the elephant that was in his pajamas? Did he take a picture of the elephant in his pajamas? So you could almost say that this is an amphibole, but it's also equivocation. What does the word shot mean? It could mean bang bang or click click. So did you shoot the elephant with a gun? Did you shoot him with a camera while he was in your pajamas? Or were you wearing your pajamas while you shot the elephant? What exactly is going on with this sentence? I shot him in my pajamas. But anyhow, that's what amphibole does, where how you put the thing together causes that person to have some confusion. Yeah, so how you put the sentences together causes confusion. So you think you've got it? That response sounds very ambiguous to me. And I don't even know what kind of ambiguity it is. It's an ambiguity of enthusiasm. So let's test your knowledge. This is just for fun, so you don't have to have the ambiguity of enthusiasm. Words that we make up in this classroom and we'll never use them outside of it. And if you tell somebody that I said that, I will deny it. I think I have to admit it because I'm a Christian. I can't lie. Anyhow, so let's test your knowledge. I like funny things. Anyhow. So look at this first sentence. Don't say anything, nobody shout anything out. Two wrongs don't make a right, but three less does. Three less do. Three less do. Look at this other one. Crime alert. Do not stop. I want you to, in your mind, decide what kind of ambiguity you're looking at with these two. So you're going to have two answers. You're going to tell me what kind of ambiguity this one is, and you're going to tell me what kind of ambiguity that one is. All right. So Who is gonna tell me what kind of ambiguity the first one is? Go ahead. Is it an equivocation? Who agrees? Equivocation. Why? You don't have to answer. Somebody else can answer because they agree with you. Why is it equivocation?
Right and left could mean something else.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong could mean something else.
Equivocation. Using a word in a different way. Shifting the meaning. Because two wrongs don't make a right. The two wrongs don't make a right is not the same thing as let's do. Because first of all, you're not talking about left and right. You're talking about morality, two wrongs. Different concepts. Equivocation. Next one. Really quickly. Volunteer. What's happening here? Crime alert. Let me see all the amphiboles go up. Amphibole. Why is it an amphibole again? I'm telling. Are they telling the people to not stop crime?
Crime alert, do not stop.
Do not stop crime. Crime alert. Don't stop. Just do it. Just keep doing it. Just keep committing crime. You know, it's an amphibole. Keep committing. No, these are actually signs that are in these United States of America. You're going to see these mistakes everywhere you go. The average person won't catch it, but at least you will know that. What's that one?
Answerable.
Is it an amphibole? Let me see all the people go in the air. Put your hand in the air for amphibole. All the amphiboles vote. All right. Look at this one. What's this one? Do not read this sign under penalty of law. What? What? So, number one, I've heard people say amphibole. That's your final answer. That is the consensus of the class that that's an amphibole. Yes? Who says it's not an amphibole? Why do you think it's not an amphibole?
Because let's eat grandpa. Let's eat. What is that? Let's eat grandpa. Let's eat.
Yeah,
It's two different.
But eat has the same meaning though.
Grammar.
All right, okay.
But each
All
one
right.
has the same
So, amphibole and amphibole. Some of us, hey, some of us think that's the amphibole. Some think it's an equivocation. Let's see. Amphibole. It's ambiguity based on grammar. Let's eat grandpa. Let's eat him. I'm like, why? Let's eat grandpa. Let me tell you something.
No, there's a RSVP for a wedding, like there's a wedding card, like an RSVP card going viral online because they said RSVP what type of food you want, and in the same line they put meat, chicken, and then they put a line children 12 and under.
All the cannibals are coming to that wedding. Are you serious? No, but you know what happens? One of the few things that I learned in law school, comma can save your life or it can win a case. Because it totally changes the meaning of the sentence. If you wrote the first one, some of the papers that I read, I'm like, what? What are you trying to say? You want to eat grandpa or you want to tell grandpa, let's see. It's an amphibole. This second one, let me see all the amphiboles again. Nobody wants to. What do you guys think it is? Equivocation? Second one. You think it's a, who thinks it's an amphibole? Come on, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, what do you call it? Unreasonable, you know, conclusion.
I know what amphibole is.
Who thinks it's an equivocation?
Amphibole.
Why do you think it's an equivocation?
Because it has relation to nothing.
But what's the definition of equivocation? What is the definition of an equivocation so you can identify it?
There's no meaning.
Double meaning. Double meaning. So what has a double meaning there?
Oh.
Do not read the sign. That's not a double meaning.
All right, so wait, drum roll. It's an
ineffable. You know why? Because it's how you put those thoughts. Well, why would you tell somebody not to read a sign? But anyhow, don't read the sign. Okay. Under penalty of law, okay. But when you put them together, though, don't read the sign under penalty of law. What are you trying to tell me to do? That's what creates the confusion.
Is that a real sign to you?
Yes. See, they're pictures of signs. Yes.
So it's an amp. It's an amp.
Yeah.
All put together.
Yes.
In one sense.
Yes. But in fact, if you look at just don't read the sign, it's still weird. It's still ambiguous. But not a fallacy that we know. Yes.
Why?
It's just ambiguous because it's not clear. Like, why would you say don't read the sign? This one, if you just had under penalty of law, it would really be ambiguous because what's under penalty of law? But I want you to apply these specific categories to it, okay? What's sign? What's sign?
Do not read the sign.
The sign exists. There's a picture of the sign. You'll be surprised the things that people write.
Do not read why the sign
I don't
exists.
know, if that's all I'm thinking.
Let's find what city it's in and let's sue them for idiocy. What are you suing? By what? What are you pressing charges
Kind of
for?
a joke.
Well, we're doing it for idiocy.
Behind the sign is a horseman.
That's so mean. Don't say that. That's an ad hominem. That's ad hominem.
Anyhow, what you just said.
Anyhow, welcome to finally we're running up. Let's do a few more. Welcome to prejudice. Stay strong.
That's not equivocation.
Yeah, equivocation. Who thinks it's equivocation?
I think so.
Y'all are losing confidence here. Who thinks it's equivocation? Just be wrong. Be loud and wrong, man. Yeah, be wrong.
One C and one. Is one C? Is it one C?
I'm just saying.
All right, look at this one. Look at this one. Tell me what you think this one is. All trees have bark.
Okay, they do not bark.
Every dog barks.
Yes.
Therefore, every dog is a tree.
Wrong.
I'm done. Every dog is a tree. How do you know what a dog is? He's a tree. All right, so what's this one? Yeah, so Joey says simple ambiguity. Who says ambiguity?
What's wrong?
Dog barks. Simple ambiguity? All right. Y'all are losing confidence though. I want y'all to bring y'all confidence back, okay?
It's a different meaning for bars.
You know what? Can I tell you something? No, listen to what I'm saying with this amicable. Based on what you just said, I changed my mind about whether I think it's an amicable. Because it could be both. Listen to what you just said. Welcome to prejudice. Stay strong. They're using that word prejudice in different ways. Why? Prejudice could be what? In the context, what do you say? The name of the city.
Yeah.
Stay strong. Prejudice is like powers of people. Oh, stay strong. You know what I mean? You're going through prejudice. Stay strong. So in that sense, you see that amicable in terms of how it's put together, there's some ambiguity. Because you have those together, create some ambiguity. If you just said welcome to prejudice, well, that's weird in itself. Especially if you don't know that the name of the place is prejudice.
Yeah.
So anyhow, but if it's just welcome to prejudice, okay.
That's a welcome
But
to
stay
my
strong.
city, so.
Yeah, but you have to do a lot of thinking to
It's not a grammar construction. It's a misuse of the word.
Because of the meaning. To me, when I get
No,
it.
but the point is, these are little jokey joke things for you to learn how to identify this kind of ambiguity. But whenever you remember, your clue to what's wrong is your feeling. You know that something is wrong with the argument. Then you're gonna say, okay, what's wrong? It's ambiguous. What's ambiguous about it? That word is ambiguous, and how the entire argument is structured when it comes to prejudice stay strong. That whole thing is so it is equivocation as well.
And well,
It's both. You know, but the reason the ambiguity is because they named the city prejudice. Why would you name your city prejudice? That's the problem. Let's sue the mayor of that city too. Anyhow, this dog barks now. It's equivocation because trees have barks is not the same thing as dog barks. Now it seems silly to you, but when we start to put this
in arguments that is not obvious that a dog barks, please still be able to identify it. Let's do a few just for fun. Dog for sale. It eats anything and is very fond of children. Who would buy that dog? Who would buy that dog? If you don't go to other people's funerals, they won't come to yours.
I prefer.
These things makes you want to reread what you wrote, right? Are you texting people or you emailing like, let me read that, see if it makes sense what I just said. He's trying to quit smoking cold turkey. You see the problem? He's trying to quit cold turkey, or is he smoking cold turkey? What's happening here? Like, you can imagine like a cold turkey. Cold turkey. All right, I think this one is the last one. I'm tired of cleaning yourself. Let us do it for you. Somebody had this as their advertisement. I'm done. But sometimes you can but sometimes people actually use this. Like, if you know if you're good with grammar, you're good with these, you can actually use it to your advantage. Have you ever seen that sign on sample that says your wife is hot?
Yeah.
They're using it to their advantage. They're playing on that ambiguity.
It was great.
Yeah. It's like, she is hot. She is. You're like, is she hot? It's like in Spanish. It's like in Spanish. One day I'm at work and I'm tired. I remember years ago, and I'm like, oh, I'm so caliente. This is what Spanish lady like. Don't say that. I'm like, it means hot. How do you mean? Like, listen, if you are hot, say calor. Calor. No caliente. No caliente. You know what I mean?
So the structure of the sentence in there would have been different too.
Exactly. So you see how things can happen. And it's all fun and jokes. But I want you to think about when you hear people say things, okay, what are you trying to say? And when you say things, think about what you're really trying to say and what you're saying, and if they match up. Because I read your writings, guys. Sometimes you don't really say what you want to say. So reread what you write and think about if you're saying what you want to say. Look at this one. This is my favorite one because it has Muslim in it. And you know how Christians, we love to bash the Muslims. All right, let's do this. Terror has gigantic Muslim spiders bring deadly Ebola to UK. That's actually a newspaper.
Yes, a newspaper. Yeah.
Terror has gigantic Muslim spiders. So you're trying to tell me that these Muslim people are converting spiders? What?
Are they bringing those deadly Ebola?
What? And the Muslims are bringing deadly Ebola to UK?
No, the spiders.
It could be the spiders.
It could be Muslim spiders.
The Muslim spiders are bringing the Ebola. What's happening? You don't know who to fight right now. You don't know who to war against. Who are you calling? Are you calling Nolan or are you calling, the special service? The Muslim spiders. They're converting spiders now. I mean, these guys, we need to get rid of them off the face of the earth now. Oh my God, let me be careful. Because y'all may believe me. I don't know the level of your understanding. Yes, I don't mind, but I want to tell you, this is something that is written in a newspaper. One, we have no evidence that Muslims are converting spiders, and we're not going to do anything about it. Just for the record. And they're gigantic.
You see, terrorists.
No, but think about the fact. No, but I want you to think about the fact that this is a newspaper. So somebody wrote it, an editor saw it, and thought to themselves, that's good. Print that.
Oh, yes, they were in Dr.
What
Simon.
Yeah.
means in the fact?
Huh?
What means?
Deadly Ebola. I don't know. They bring deadly Ebola to UK?
Yeah, in the Sharia law, arachnids.
Oh, I didn't even read that part because I don't know what it says. I didn't read it. Let me see if I see it. And the Sharia law, arachnids, are you serious? Are also said to cause the worst winter for 50 years, and you are paying for it. What? What? Listen, everybody that works at this newspaper should be fired.
You post that here and see what happens. They put something like that here.
Yeah. No, you know the problem is with us as also what logic is gonna help you to do. Look at each word. A lot of time you see it and you think what you wanted to say. Oh, this is what it says, and you look away. But did you really look to see what the person was trying to say? How did they put those words together, and what does it mean? Yes.
Gigantic. Humongous.
No. Terror has gigantic. I don't think we should try to fix this. I think this is not fixable. Because terror doesn't have gigantic spiders.
My problem is.
No, not the gigantic Muslim spiders.
I'm done. Let's just let it go. Oh my goodness.
When I read this, I'm like, oh my English is very bad.
Yes, and that's the bad part because people who English is not their first language, they're even more confused. They're like, what? You're thinking that it's your understanding. No, it's what this person wrote. Oh my God. Everybody, inhale and exhale. A lot of ambiguity in this world. But that's good. Hopefully the laugh helps to solidify those concepts in your mind. Let's move on for a few minutes to the ambiguity of accent. We're going super slow though. Ambiguity of accent. As it relates to the ambiguity of accent, the fallacy of accents occur when, because of the way a word or phrase is, listen to these words, visually or verbally emphasized, we are led to draw an incorrect conclusion. So equivocation had to do with how the word is used. Amphibole had to do with how the words relate to each other. And accent has to do with your inflection or visual cues. Yes, beloved? Okay. For example, the chicken, without the picture, the chicken is ready to eat. If I said, like, let me try to get the accent right, okay? I'm not a good actress under pressure. The chicken is ready to eat. Or, the chicken is ready to eat. Like if you ever watch Wile E. Coyote, different inflections kind of give you different meanings. So that's accent, where the accent changes the meaning. A better one is this one that was in your book. I love you. No, hold on. Let me try to get it. I love you. I love you. Or I really love you. The third one is a creep. One of my friends in the past said, "How do you identify a creep?" I'm like, I don't know. That's creepy though. That I love you with an exclamation mark. So how you change the inflection or you change a visual cue and it changes the meaning. And very related to this, let me tell you this about the ambiguity of accent. You're not going to find a lot of them. But just be aware. If you see a situation where the inflection can change the meaning, then you know instantly. But you're not going to meet a lot of them. Let's look at this one. Ambiguity of significance. It's very related to ambiguity of accents. This happens when the ambiguity occurs because the condition changes. Ambiguity of accent occurs when the inflection changes or something about what you're seeing changes the meaning. Ambiguity of significance when the condition changes the meaning. So the example that your book gave, and I thought it was a good one, for an example of this. It's one thing for a child to look in their grandfather's pipe and say fire in the hole, And it's another thing if you're in Iraq and some guy says fire in the hole. Same words, but the circumstance changes the meaning. It would be interesting to think, like, in terms of real life, how that would affect you. But maybe I'll come up with a good example later. Go ahead, go ahead.
Why isn't Mom making lunch?
I got this. Do you want crust or no crust?
Just make sure that...
Let's attack it. The first fallacy that falls under this category of attack, so under the umbrella of fallacy of relevance, and then under the subgenre of attack, we have adbaction. Now, I may pronounce it differently than other people. That's okay. It could be baculum. And AKA, otherwise known as appeal to force. If in your homework or anywhere else you use these words, I don't mind. So an appeal to force, what does it do? This type of argument doesn't even try to be relevant. It says, accept this argument or I'll beat you up. You have two choices, my way or the highway. With the fist like this. Yeah. You're going to build this wall or else you're going to get an embargo. It seeks to persuade by force. We do this in church too. Everybody's going to hell. You don't wear a hat, you're going to hell. You don't wear shoes, you're going to hell. You shave your feet, you're going to hell, going to hell, going to hell, going to hell. Not even trying to lay out a reasonable argument, just certain people. Are some people going to hell? Yes. I'm just saying within the argument. Anyhow, so persuasion by force. It actually comes from this word like persuasion by the stick. How we teach children, by the stick. It's a threat or reasoning through blackmail. So it doesn't have to be that you put your fist up and start. You can do that. I'm talking to you about Jesus right now. The very act is intimidating. You know, I'm talking to you about the political race that is being run. The very posture, or you have a guy come and you walk into a county, you know, like one of your municipal governments, and you walk in like with 10 guys in black suits, and you stand up to talk and you have them all stand like this in the back. Like, if you don't listen to what I gotta say, I don't know. You know, it's my intimidation. So you're using the threat, whether it's a word, whether it's your posture, whatever it is. You are not even trying to give a good argument. You're using threats or forces or blackmail to make the point. And it assumes that might makes right. It has nothing to do with logic. Let's look at an example and let's do homework so that we had way too much fun. So the chairman of the board, he's addressing the board and he says, all those opposed to my arguments for the opening of a new department signify by saying, who are opposed, signify by saying, I resign. If you're opposing, stand up and say, I resign, walk out. Because we doing this. Say, I resign. Let's do another one. Oh, you like this one? You have the guy up. I see your point. Yeah. All of a sudden, like, I see your point. You are right. You were right. That's an ad baculum. Look at another example. The Department of Transportation needs to reconsider the speed limit proposal on interstate highways. For the simple reason that if they do not, their department budget for the Department of Transportation will be cut by 25%. Now, what are your options there? Have your budget cut by 25% or reduce? So you're not even trying to make an argument to persuade. You're saying it's this or this, you know? We'll continue the conversation next week.